Hello, everyone, and welcome to another lesson on Introduction to Spiritism by Terezinha Oliveira. I'm João Korngold from the Spiritist Group of New York, and very happy to be here to share this topic. Today, we're going to cover perispirit and fluids. So, what are we? We are a spirit. We have a physical body and a spiritual body. The spiritual body is the perispirit. So what is the perispirit? The perispirit is the semi-material envelope of the spirit. So it's also called the fluidic body or the spiritual body, as we mentioned before. So the perispirit and the physical body both originate from the universal fluid. We know that we have in the universe God, spirits, or the spiritual principle, and the universal fluid, which everything else derives from. So the perispirit originates from the universal fluid, which in turn is drawn from the world or plane to which the spirit is related. So if the spirit is connected to the planet Earth, its perispirit, it is drawn from the fluids of this planet. So it's also made of matter, like the physical body. But it's a different matter, much subtle, much etherealized. It's not rigid like the physical body. And the perispirit is expandable, which make it quite pliable under the action of the spirit. The spirit can act on it to modify it when it's in the spiritual world. Like the physical body, the perispirit has a structure, has a physiology. But again, like the physical body, doesn't have neither the intelligence nor autonomy. It's not another being, but it's only another instrument of the spirit, just like the physical body is the intermediary between the physical body and the spirit itself. So you see here the spirit emanating through the perispirit to the physical body. So the perispirit is the fluidic envelope of the spirit, and we call it of a semi-material nature because it's not the same matter as the physical body. So throughout the incarnation, the perispirit acts as an intermediary between spirit and matter, transmitting to the spirit all the impressions of the physical senses and communicating to the body the desires of the spirit. Let's expand a little bit on that. So the spirits, we have our physical body. For us to act, for our physical body to act on the will of the spirit sends the commands and thoughts to the perispirit and the perispirit to the physical body. It is done in an instantaneous way. It doesn't take any space of time, but that's if we are going to divide how the action of the spirit over the physical body works, it goes through the perispirit and reaches the physical body. So how does this connection with the physical body is done in the process of the reincarnation, when the spirit is connecting itself to a new physical body? So that we know that the perispirit pre-exists the physical body. With the perispirit is always present. The spirit in its eternal journey always has a perispirit that change its format throughout the incarnations, throughout their experiences, through the evolution. So when the spirit is connecting to the new physical body, Allan Kardec tells us in Genesis that a fluidic cord or bond, which is an expansion of the perispirit, binds to the fertilized ovum, and presides over the multiplication of cells, one by one, running the formation of the body. When it's complete, it is entirely linked to the perispirit, molecule by molecule. This is a very important concept, that the perispirit and the physical body are connected molecule by molecule. On the other way, on the other process, the process of discarnation. When the body dies, the perispirit detaches itself and continues to serve the spirit as its fluidic body and as its intermediate agent on the spiritual or material plane. It pre-exists the body and survives it. And also the disconnection between the physical body and the perispirit is done molecule by molecule in the same manner as when it was uniting, and the spirit is set free. So death happens when death of the physical body happens when the perispirit is completely disconnected from the physical body. It's a process that, according to Emmanuel, can take up to 72 hours, no longer the 72 hours, but not necessarily 72 hours. It can depends on the condition of this moral condition and the cause of death of the spirit. So if it's an accident and there is a death that was not expected by the spirit, it can take longer for the disconnection between the physical body and the perispirit to take place. If the spirit is sick for some time and the perispirit is already slowly disconnecting from the physical body because of a disease, for instance, the process can take can go at a much faster pace and can take a couple of hours or not much more than that. So, an important concept here on the perispirit, it proves the immortality of the spirit because it survives the body, survives the physical body. So what we see in apparitions and visions is the perispirit and not the spirit itself. It functions as an instrument and in the manifestations of the spirits to our senses. So this is a revolutionary concept that occurred in the time of Kardec, because the notion when before that was that we would see the ghost, and the ghost was the spirit or the person we were seeing, and actually we are seeing the spiritual body of the spirit and not the spirit itself. In general, when we go back to the spiritual world, our perispirit looks exactly like the physical body we just left behind. So according to what age we have died and some of the conditions of the death, immediately after the death, this perispirit will have the appearance and even the problems and issues that caused the death. But as it recovers itself, the spirit recovers in the spiritual world and is assisted and is treated, the perispirit is going to change gradually. And normally it is said that our appearance in the spiritual world will be the appearance that we felt more comfortable at the age we felt more comfortable in our last incarnation, which for most people it's something between 30 and 50 years old. But because of the malleability of the perispirit, let's say my grandmother is going to present herself to me in the spiritual world, I'm going to see her as I remember her, because it doesn't make any sense for her to appear to me when she was 20 years old. I wouldn't recognize her, most likely. So the perispirit will change its appearance according to the necessity. But in general, in the spiritual world, it will have the appearance that we felt more comfortable in our last incarnation. Since the time of Paul of Tarsus, we have this concept of the spiritual body. Paul of Tarsus said, "It is sown a natural body, it is raised a spiritual body. There is a natural body and there is a spiritual body." This was said in Paul on Corinthians 15:44. So the idea of a spiritual body, it didn't start with Spiritism. It existed since very ancient times. It was talked about by Socrates, by Plato, by Aristotle, and as we see here, by Paul of Tarsus. Uh, the, the detailed description of the perispirit, its functions, and everything else is the contribution that Spiritism brought to modern days. All the features that the perispirit have, how it works, how it relates to our physical body, how it relates to the spirit. So, what are the functions of the perispirit? It binds spirit to matter, either on earth or in other worlds, and works as an instrument that allows the spirit to act both on the fluidic and material planes. So when we go to an incarnation in a different planet, not Earth, we will have a perispirit adapted to that world. It is changed to adapt to that world, like in a poor comparison, we could say that like we change clothes when we are on a warm weather, on a cold weather, the perispirit, it's changed according to the necessities of the world it's incarnating. The perispirit records every action of the spirit in its memory. Of course, everything is the spirit itself. The mental body, or the body that presides the intelligence of the spirit, is the one that that records all the actions. But it is imprinted in the perispirit all our experiences since the beginning of our first incarnation on our evolutionary path. So this is what allows spirits to identify and recognize one another on the spiritual plane. So a spirit that we were connected 3 incarnations ago, if we meet them again in the spiritual world, we are carrying the inheritance of that incarnation that would allow that spirit that we have known 3 incarnations ago to recognize us, and vice versa. So the perispirit is really what's going to form the body structure of the human being. So our new reincarnation, the perispirit, is going to be reflected in the spiritual, in the physical body. We need the perispirit to project in the physical body all the necessities we have in the incarnation, and everything that we are going to carry, our necessities, the challenges that we are going to face. So the imperfections that we eventually have in the spirit and the physical body are going to come and be reflected by the perispirit. On the evolution of the perispirit, as we said before, the perispirit always accompanies ourselves in our evolutionary path. We always have a perispirit. But as we evolve, it becomes more and more ethereal, less dense. Um, Less evolved spirits have a very gross perispirit that very much resembles the physical body they just left behind. And as the spirit evolves, it becomes more and more etherealized. So it reaches a point when we are close to perfection or reaching perfection, when we are perfected spirits, that it is as if it did not exist, but it does exist. It's just that it's so ethereal that we cannot even recognize. Uh, the spirit have to have a perispirit. So, for instance, for a perfect spirit like Jesus to incarnate on earth, not reincarnate because he no longer needed reincarnations, he incarnated on earth, he needed a perispirit. So, even if it's completely ethereal, it still needs a perispirit to be able to create a physical body to incarnate on, in that case, on earth. So as the spirit evolves, it will have different weight of fluids because it's where it places it on the spiritual plane in the company of other spirits that are similar to it. It will have different density, which is responsible for the malleability, and the expansion of the perispirit is greater the more rarefied and the more subtle is. And also the energy, which is revealed by its luminosity and radiance, which will be greater the more evolved is the spirit. So that's why we use the expression spirit of light, meaning a spirit that already presents a considerable degree of evolution. When we hear or read that spirit is emanating light, is that evolutionary level that the spirit has inside itself that emanates, and other spirits will see this light emanating, and that's why we use this expression spirit of light. When we talk about the idea of angels with wings and the halo, probably the conception of angels come from ancient times when we were seeing those spirits of light coming to us to express themselves, and we would see them surrounded by light, and in our inability to understand what we were seeing, we created the halo on the top of the head, because normally the head is where the luminosity is emitted in with a more frequency, and because we see all this light coming from the spirit, it looks to us that it was coming around the spirit, and that's why where we create the wings also, as the spirits will appear to be floating in the air. So the idea of a spirit floating in the air makes sense for us to come up with the concept of wings to show it. So the perispirit is not identical for all spirits. Even those spirits that are in the same world, here we are talking both incarnate and discarnate spirits, they have different perispirits according to their moral evolution. So the layer that surrounds the world is not homogeneous, and the spirit, when forming its perispirit on the specific world, will draw more or less ethereal and subtle fluids according to its possibilities. So a less evolved spirit will form with more gross matter, more physical matter, a more evolved spirit still surrounding our planet, let's say, will draw these fluids, more subtle fluids, and will be placing itself in a more elevated plane of existence in the spiritual world. When we are incarnated, we have, most of us cannot see on each other the degree of evolution according to the perispirit. Some mediums that have seeing abilities will be able to see beyond the physical body, the spirit, more evolved spirit or less evolved spirit, according to their the perispirit that they'll be able to see. So, talking a little bit about fluids now, the spirit's action upon fluids. First, we live in an atmosphere of fluids, all spirits. From it, we extract what we need by employing fluids and acting upon them. So we agglomerate them, we scatter them, we shape them and change their properties according to our necessities. Remember, everything comes from the universal fluid. So we are using fluids here in relation to everything that exists in the universe that is not God and is not the spirits. Kardec on Genesis chapter 14 says that the fluids, it is the great workshop of laboratory of spiritual life. The actions on fluids that I mentioned here on agglomerating, scattering, shaping, and changing is what Kardec refers as the great workshop of the spiritual life. So, what are the fluids? What's the quality of the fluids? The fluids are neutral in themselves. They have no characteristics of their own. It's the kind of thinking and feeling that the spirit of the spirit that gives them qualities. So that will result in good fluids that are the result of noble and pure thoughts and feelings. But when these thoughts and feelings are low, impure, or directed to the wrong direction, they generate bad fluids. So this is important. Fluids are neutral in themselves. And also they can combine, repel, or modify amongst themselves. So similar fluids combine, fluids contrary repel each other, the weak fluids we yield to the stronger fluids, and the good ones rule over the bad ones. The influence of a more evolved spirit emanating good fluids, strong fluids, can dominate and paralyze spirits acting on evil tendencies, like we can see in many books of Spiritism, especially the Andre Luiz Collection, that Life in the Spiritual World, when he talks about the influence of the benefactors on helping and assisting the spirits in need. Fluids reinforce themselves in their good or bad qualities by repeating the corresponding impulse that they receive from the spirit. So when we are sending, let's say, good vibrations, we are having positive thoughts, we are in a prayer, we are reinforcing these impulses on the fluid, we are expanding the ability of these fluids to reach out to more spirits, to more space in the universe. That's, again, the importance of prayer, the importance of good thoughts, the importance of avoiding negative thoughts, inferior tendencies. But the conditions created by the action of the spirit can be modified by the new actions of the spirit itself or by the actions of other spirits. So we can change our thought process, our vibrational level, so we can change the fluids around ourselves positively or negatively. So if we focus on helping and assisting those in need, and we change our vibrations of hatred, of negative thoughts towards someone, to positive thoughts, to thoughts of forgiving, these fluids can be modified and will make a change on the effect they provide on the others. And of course, actions of other spirits can modify the fluids surrounding us. When we open ourselves, we are struggling, and we open ourselves to receive the assistance of the spiritual benefactors, they can modify the fluids around us, the fluids that we are using ourselves, to a more positive nature, to a more positive energy that will help us overcome our struggles, overcome our difficulties. So, what about the aura? Are the aura and the perispirit the same? Well, not exactly, because with its habitual thoughts and feelings, a spirit, either incarnate or not, will influence the fluids of its perispirit, giving them specific characteristics. As the spirit constantly emanates these fluids, which accompany all its movements, it's enveloped by them, forming its aura, which Kardec calls the individual or fluidic atmosphere. So the energy that we see around us, the aura, is a result of the fluids we are emanating and that envelops us. But it's not the perispirit. When someone tells you that they are seeing the aura of someone, the colors surrounding someone, they are seeing the aura, they are not seeing the perispirit. So a well-balanced and fraternal life produces an aura of good fluids, which functions as a fluidic armor, repelling or at least neutralizing evil fluids that are addressed to us. This is the meaning of closing the body against evil. So whenever we can avoid bad or vicious environments, we should, because they possess harmful fluids. If we cannot avoid them, or if we need to confront them, let's say in a charitable or welfare work, it's important that we keep our thoughts elevated, our vibrations at a high level, watching and prayer, and stay in these places as little as possible. Again, if we cannot avoid being contaminated by the fluidic energy of these places, we should avoid them. But if we can withstand and we can work, we are doing a charitable work. We are helping and assisting others. So elevating our thoughts, vibrating on a more positive vibrations, we are going to be able to help and assist those spirits that are trapped in these difficult places and that need our assistance. That's how the superior spirits work and how they assist those in need, as they go to the lower zones, as they go to rescue the spirits in those very difficult places. The importance of keeping themselves in prayer and keep themselves watching their acts and their thoughts towards others, as we can see again in many books of Andre Luiz, especially, for instance, in Liberation, when they go to rescue the leader of the lower zones, the Gregorio, the priest, the high priest. Aulus keeps repeating the importance of keeping in prayer and watching their thoughts. So, talking about fluids, we come to the passes. What are passes? Pass is the willing and deliberate transfusion of beneficial fluids from one person to another. The Spirit Emmanuel defines it as a transfusion of physio-psychical energies. What are the effects of the pass? The effect is good if the recipient is truly receptive and assimilates the transmitted fluids. So, when we are going to receive the passes, it's important to prepare ourselves with faith, with prayer, so to be able to better receive the pass. What does it mean? If you are going to receive a pass at a Spiritist center or at your home, but you do not believe that it works, you close yourself to the benefits of it. We're not going to say that it doesn't work, but it doesn't fully work as it could, as we can receive some benefits if we prevent ourselves by lack of faith or lack of understanding to fully benefit from it. But sometimes when we need, we are going to receive a little bit of what we need. When the past receiver is able to maintain through good conduct, thought, and feeling the positive state that achieved receiving the passes, it can be lasting. Again, lasting in the sense that we leave the Spiritist center right after receiving the pass, and our thoughts become again involved in our mundane daily activities with our worldly preoccupations. Then the effects of the passes can be very very quick, can last not very long, because as we know, if we do not change our ways, we will again go back to the same issues that brought us to receive the passes in the first place, which is the fluidic awareness and spiritual imbalance. So the importance of receiving the passes on individually is to open ourselves to be able to be in prayer, to be able to be open and receptive to these energies that are given to us through the pass giver. And again, the pass giver is only an intermediary between the spiritual world and the physical world. The spirits know what we need, and they're going to provide to us what we need. The importance of the pass giver is just to be a better instrument to the transmission of the spiritual energies. And if the pass giver can combine some magnetic energies for them by themselves to help in the healing process of the patient receiving the passes, the better. But if not, they can keep themselves in prayer, keep themselves connected to the spiritual benefactors. They'll be able to be good instruments. But even if the pass giver is not a good instrument, it doesn't mean that the patient is not going to receive what he or she needs, because the spirits that are coordinating the work have a way to transmit the energies that we have to receive through other people in the room directly to us. So we should not be very concerned with whom is giving the passes to us, but much more focused on our openness and ability to receive the passes. So this was my presentation on perispirit and fluids, what we had to discuss here. I believe we have some questions, so I'll pass now to see if we have any questions. Okay, first one. What happens when we sleep? Okay, that's important question. When we sleep, the physical body is at rest. the perispirit semi-disconnects from the physical body, still connected through the wires that connect the perispirit to the physical body, but the perispirit goes and experiences life in the spiritual world. What type of experiences is what we, for those that can remember their dreams, what we remember in our dreams when the dreams make some sense. So there are two types of dreams. The dreams that are very confusing, doesn't make any sense. They are very confusing. It's more likely our physical brain rehashing our physical experiences and rebooting the brain, so to say. But the bigger part of our dreams is experiences we have in the spiritual world. We go there, we meet with loved ones, we watch presentations, lectures, we learn, or we can go to less of constructive places when we have some not so good experiences. Now, in terms of being able to remember the dreams, it's very important for us to make a distinction of what we remember with what really happened there. Because our physical brain has the ability to connect the dots, in a sense. So our experiences in the spiritual world with our perispiritual brain are stored in the perispirit. When the perispirit reconnects with the physical body, it brings flashes of recollections of our experiences in the spiritual world. And our brain wisely connects the dots. So let's say you go to the spiritual world, you have a wonderful meeting with your grandmother, and you come back and you remember a lot of details of what you had experienced with your grandmother. The part that you met with your grandmother is true. The recollections that you have with your grandmother, you have to be careful, because some of them may be your brain connecting the dots of what you don't remember. If the feeling is good, the experience is useful, and if you bring some good ideas or some good inspiration, that's great. But we cannot take it 100% seriously, because some parts of it may be our physical brain connecting the dots that were missing on our recollections. Okay. Why some spirits still think they are alive, incarnated, after their physical body has died? So we don't die. We live eternally. We, the eternal spirit, never dies. What dies is our physical body. We discarnate. We go back to the spiritual world. And as I explained during the discussion, we wake up in the spiritual world and we look at ourselves and we haven't changed anything, most cases. So we look at ourselves and we see our physical body. In a sense, it's our spiritual body that looks exactly like our physical body. So if we were caught by surprise, we were not expecting to go back to the spiritual world, to discarnate, or if we don't believe there is an afterlife, we don't believe that we survive the death of the physical body, we are looking at our physical body, our spiritual body that looks like the physical body, and we are thinking, we continue to think the same way we were thinking before. So the natural reaction is to not accept the idea that we have discarnated, that we have left our physical body behind. So the struggle that some spirits have to accept the fact that the physical body has died and they have discarnated can last as long as they refuse to accept the reality. they can be in this state of confusion for a very long time if they refuse to accept the reality. So these are the cases of those spirits that keep trying to talk to incarnate spirits and are ignored by them according to what they feel, that keep going back to the places that they feel comfortable, that do not accept the reality of going back to the spiritual world. And how can they accept it? How can they understand it? When they are going to understand it? It may take some time, but eventually everything evolves, everything changes, and they will reach a point where they will feel the need of help. They will sincerely ask for help, and when the help comes, you will help them understand their new reality and the new life that they have now in the spiritual world. And then the perispirit will start resembling less the physical body they just left behind, that should be in a more fragile state because of the discarnation of the spirit and the death of the physical body. So, how do spirits attune to each other? We set up a vibrational wavelength between us and those who think and feel the same as us. So we tune into them. We then produce a certain type of fluid, and spirits that produce similar fluids combine theirs with ours, and as we establish a fluidic affinity, we connect to each other. When we incarnates offer attunement and combination of fluids to evil thoughts, we say that we are opening the door to lower order spirits, and that can become the starting process of obsessions, fascinations, subjugations. So that's the importance again of vigilance and prayer to correct the negative influence of others upon us. We need to be very careful with our thoughts and our vibrations. Again, understanding that we are imperfect spirits, understanding that we cannot, at this level of evolution, to keep our vibrations at a higher level at all times. But what we can and should is avoid our vibrations to stay low for a long period of time, because these lower vibrations for a long period of time is what can cause the connections with lower order spirits, with our enemies from the past, and can cause the spiritual disturbances that are the source of many of the imbalances that we see nowadays in the depression modes, in all sorts of psychological difficulties that we incarnates face during our incarnation. Okay, I think that was the last question. I hope that you had the opportunity to learn, and I hope you have the opportunity to go deeper into studying a little more about this subject on perispirit and fluids, that you watch the other classes on this series of studies of introduction to Spiritism. If you are new to Spiritism, please look for the material available for studying, for reading. Try to participate in classes, in discussions, in study groups, to watch some lectures. I want to thank the United States Spiritist Federation for this invitation, for this wonderful opportunity of sharing a little bit of the knowledge on Spiritism to all those that are interested in learning and improving themselves. And we see you soon at another opportunity. Thank you.